So it was probably 1 to 2 a.m. in the morning. I was in my living room holding on to our firstborn, and I sat down on the couch and he was whining, so I just gently put him down on the floor. There was a bit of an audible thud. I was a bit frustrated, as all new parents would be, and I was trying to take him away from our room just so that the wife has a little bit of time to get some sleep. And all I remember thinking was, man, in a couple of hours, I'll be waking up, trying to figure out clients, trying to put on a show that I'm here to motivate you to improve your health and fitness, and here I am just struggling to even get any sleep. And I knew something needed to change. Now, I know what you're thinking, man, you're a new parent, cut you some slack, but fast forward a year and a half, that was kind of one of the reasons as to why I started this podcast, Time to Grow Up, because I realized there and then I really needed to grow up. I needed to change the way I think. I needed to change the way I function to some degree, and I needed to let go of certain things that, whilst in the past mean a lot to me, now I should really learn to let go of them. Let's take a step back. Who am I before all of this? And here's where it gets quite interesting. Leading up to our sort of mid to late 20s, my wife and I were pretty happy. Dual income household, we had a pet, and this was back in 2022. We decided to travel back to Malaysia for a little bit of a holiday. We did talk about kids even up to this point, and we were trying with no success, so we figured, why not? Just take a holiday. The morning of the flight, we figured that her period was late, and so we decided, okay, let's just take a pregnancy test just in case, and lo and behold, she was pregnant. Life has a funny way of telling you and giving you signs that just when you think you've got a grasp on life, it just flips itself on its head and tells you, hey, here's a new big challenge. And all I remember throughout the entire trip back home was that, not that I'm ungrateful of being a father soon to be, but is the timing even right? It just felt like we got a hold of life and now it's going to flip upside down again. Who I was before I became a new parent, and I still pretty much am at this point, I wanted to be a high-level elite international powerlifter. Yes, I know, very, very naive. Maybe not naive, but looking back, let's be honest, my caliber, strength-wise, wasn't there. I wanted to be a coach. No, specifically not just any coach, but a coach who's famous. And yes, very naive again, because I figured fame was equivocal to power and success. I also wanted to make money, not because I knew that money was important, even though we knew that we were pretty good in the financial department, but I was so naive to think that money meant power. To cut my younger self some slack, I don't think you did it wrong. And I think a lot of young adults, even before they ended up becoming parents, planned, unplanned, have this thing where it's time to grind hard and want all the success and fame that comes with being successful to some degree. Especially in the health and fitness industry, it's a thing. And he's talking to a lot of the younger coaches in terms of age. That was all well and good. But all of that had to change because a lot of it was very, very performative. And why I say performative is because, to me, before being a parent, life in itself was very much a succeeding or failing at something. I was obviously suicidal. Well, I don't know, but hey, now you know I was suicidal way back when I was a lot younger, got out of it to do powerlifting, the gym, and I thought, hey, I got out of that. That was a huge success, and now I need to tell my story and try to be successful and spread the word and hopefully be in a position of power and authority to, I don't know, like just young adult stuff, very naive, very stupid. Like basically I thought like I could be like this famous coach that went through all the trials and tribulations, and now I've got this system that can help everyone. And I thought fame and money and all this stuff mattered too much. Anyway, I was performing a lot. It was very performative in my opinion. But then the moment I realized that at some point I was going to be a father because of the test, and then fast forward a couple months later, holding a newborn in my arms, I kind of knew, for some reason I looked at that as I was cutting the cord. I basically went, all right, like, who am I really performing for here? Who am I trying to put on this face that on paper, in my head, imagining this was like success, but why am I trying to perform it for everyone else when I'm not even really good at it? I don't even know if that makes sense, but I was just trying to be this. I was just trying to show the world that I'm capable. But really, the moment I realized I am a dad, all of that sort of changed. Now, this was the problem, though, and I think many new fathers and new parents alike fall into this postpartum depression. Yes, I know it happens a lot more in women, but men feel it too. The idea of, I was once like this, and now everything that I do just seems to be very counterintuitive. I want to be performative, want to put on a face, put on a show for everyone to show that I know things and I'm successful, and I want the validation from other people. And now all of a sudden I don't really care. All I really care about is the validation of whether I'm actually a good parent, whether I can come home, or when the kids come home in the future, again, new parent, and say that they're happy of me being their father. And I was trying to play this game, especially in that first year of my fatherhood, parenthood, of trying to tell myself I'm special and I can still be that hustle, grind for fame and power sort of young adult thing. And again, like, I'm not saying that it was wrong. I just think that there's just something transformative about being a parent. But in that first year, I was really, really trying. I was really, really trying to do all of that, whilst also trying to battle this internal war of, honestly, like, I don't really care about validation anymore. And it really, really messed with my mind. Part of me wanted the validation from others. Another part of me was like, I don't really care. I've got my family now, and that's all that matters. There is a great quote. I don't know who said this, but there's obviously this thing called fuck you money, where basically rich people can just throw money at a problem and effectively will solve the issue. There's a thing called, like, fuck you parent energy, where everything in the world just suddenly doesn't really matter because you're a parent. And it's so hard to explain that to people who are not parents. And when people tell me this before I was a parent, I was like, it can't be that great. And then now that I've got two kids, back to back in succession, for another podcast on the struggles for that, it's kind of like, I don't really want external validation anymore. And in that first year, what was really hard for me in the first year of parenting was trying to remove myself from my past self. And then I quickly realized this thing. Who am I now? I'm actually sort of the same person and who I was before. A lot of my values in life have changed, but honestly, I'm still me. And I think a lot of people are like that. They are still them. But I think where the change feels like it happened is I'm still me. I'm still the same person, but my circumstance of life is completely different. Before being a parent, I didn't have any responsibilities. I had, I could just spend money on whatever I want, save a little bit, travel, all that stuff. Very, very low responsibilities. And now the circumstances are completely different. So who am I now? I'm probably someone who doesn't really care a whole lot really about what people think of me at this point in time, compared to 3-4 years ago, where I really, really cared on, like, what people say about me. I'm trying to learn more on what it means to make money and how money is a tool that can buy you many things, but it can't buy you one thing, time. And the big lesson over the last couple of years, which really, really solidified my circumstance as a parent, is the idea that the moment that your kids are born, you're going to already start to spend less and less time with them as they grow older. As a newborn, as a toddler, you're going to be with them for a lot of time, but all of a sudden, depending on your circumstances again and your situation, you might have to send them to daycare, meaning part of your day is gone. Then they go to primary school, they meet new friends, they start sleeping over at friends' houses, going for after-school programs, and then high school, new circle of friends, don't want to talk to you anymore because they're a teenager. University, meet a partner, settle down, have their own kids, and all of a sudden, looking back at my own life, I spent a lot of my time with my parents when I was a lot younger, and now I physically try to see them once a year. That's abysmal. That's abysmal. And I know this will happen. Therefore, who I am now is really just trying to mentally drill into my head that a lot of the things that I'm trying, that I should be doing now as a new parent and as a new father, is that from year 0 to year maybe 5 or 6 or 7, don't sweat the external stuff. Do as much as you can to spend as much time as you can with them, because eventually, the moment they start growing up, that time that you're going to be spending with them is going to dwindle exponentially until I might only see them, like in my case, once a year. So, yeah, that's sort of like who am I now. Slightly the same person, just circumstances are very different, which then, I suppose, allows me to discard some of my, not necessarily bad, but I guess old values and instill new ones. And hopefully, if I do this style of reflective who am I again in another 5 or 6 years, I think it would be, again, completely different. And I guess that's part and puzzle of growing up. We go through phases. We are always still going to be the same person under very, very different circumstances. And we then have to evolve and maybe change some of our values in order to fit the same said circumstance. Anyway, I'm losing my mind. I'm getting a bit loopy. I've recorded this a little bit later than I usually do, but I thought this topic in my head, I needed to get this on paper. So, as always, thank you for supporting. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you even found a golden nugget or two that might be applicable for you, let me know. And of course, if you'd like to support me personally, I work in the health and fitness industry as a nutritionist and a strength coach, so a couple of free things and the links and coaching options are available as well. Have a good rest of your morning, day, evening, night, and I'll see you in the next one.